Welcome along to the weekend review after a cracking match week of football that could have implications for the title race, top four and relegation. The top two collided in a seismic clash at the Etihad, a game of exceptional quality that lived up to the hype. And we have tweaked the starting lineup this week with Dion and Chris here, and we're delighted to have David James joining us in the studio.
Early on in the year, wasn't it? It was 2-2.
2-2 that.
Same kind of game, same kind of standard. It was brilliant. Great to watch.
But it just shows, actually, it doesn't matter where these two play, physically, venue-wise. You know, their approach is the same, isn't it, really? The way they go about it is the same. And luckily, the result has been the same, 2-2. I meant the result for all of us has been the same in what sort of match it's been.
Just quality football, quality individual performances. They have their own ways of playing the game, but it's always trying to win the game, never trying to sit back and see what happens. They both wanted to win. And the positivity was incredible.
What does that say to you? I mean, it says to you that Liverpool needs City to slip up somewhere.
Yeah. Where? I've no idea.
That's the issue, isn't it?
Or either of them are going to slip up. I just can't see it. There's too much at stake.
I can actually see them both slipping up somewhere. What's interesting with Liverpool, when they've had a negative Premier League result, except for the first one where they drew in the season, they followed it up with another negative result.
Please tell me where, Jamie.
Well, but
where and who?
Well, there's three teams there that have got a massive influence: Wolves, I'm just going to Aston Villa, and Newcastle. So three teams that are going to play both sides. But the Liverpool 9 winning streak, and where everyone talks about momentum, well, that's been broken by Man City. You could say the best team in the league have done it. But it also means now that other teams playing Liverpool say, hang on a minute, this team doesn't win every week. So it gives everyone else confidence. I mean, it's just a fascinating thing. And I think everyone wanted a result last night, or yesterday, which was going to define the season. I.e., if Man City win, they'll go on and win the title. But now we're stuck in that predicament of not knowing.
I think a word for the referee. Not this referee, but the referee, Anthony Taylor. Because I texted you before the game and I went, hope he has a good game. I think he had a good game, don't you?
I think there was a lot of hype. Obviously, everybody was talking about the game in the build-up to it in the week. I mean, because it's such a massive fixture, probably the biggest game of the season. And there was a lot of spotlight on him. But I thought his assistants as well yesterday were amazing. I mean, you see a goal there where there's 4 players clearly in an offside position. You're trying to make that judgment of the player who's onside for an offside. Obviously, you can't be offside. You're not getting involved in active play. But together, they worked really, really well. And when they came off at the end, nobody even mentioned them, which is where you want to be. Leave the ground with your bag and nobody knows who you are.
That's a good thing then, is it?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Who's that leaving there? We don't know. That's a good thing. No, I think, praise where it's due, that they did a great job. Clean today, because you could hear the Hoover going round the background, couldn't you?
You can.
Fantastic. Let's get into the game then. Let's have a look. Let's take it chronologically. Kevin De Bruyne, actually, he was right, Paul, was the best player on the pitch, wasn't he, Dion?
Yeah, you know what?
And the quick free kick, Liverpool aren't reset, are they?
You mentioned that, Jamie, when we watched the game, didn't you?
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about the brilliance, but in between this was some really sloppy play, like Liverpool switching off. But the brilliance of the opposition, in this case Manchester City, taking advantage, big deflection. I'm sure the managers are having words with their players about a couple of incidents or moments in the game which could have given us a different outcome.
Can I ask you a question as a goalkeeper? We've talked about this a lot this season. Are a lot more goals deflected than we quite acknowledge?
No.
I mean, that's a big deflection, obviously.
Yeah, most of the ones I let him.
Yeah, they were all. But you know, it's amazing how often you see it behind the goal. Oh, that took a little nick. It's just changed direction, changed flight. Dion's always teaching us watch the flight of the ball. You can see it has.
Well, with this weekend, there was even more. But I would argue that the quality of shooting, I know that you could probably run a montage of fans at the back of stand getting hit, but the quality of strikers now, the shots are more near on target, therefore you're going to logically hit more players.
De Bruyne, just when they need him, isn't it? Because he's in and out, had a few injuries, but really coming to the boil when City need him.
I think I've noticed with Kevin De Bruyne I think his shape has kind of changed. He looks a little bit slighter. Obviously, he's fitter now. He's obviously at that stage of the season. But the quality of his work with the ball and his quality of organisation for everybody else without the ball, it's just brilliant. You know, his choice of pass, it's OK having the choice of passing here, and then you've got to execute it with the right weight for your teammate. And he does it 99% of the time. So important. probably the first name on the team sheet for the manager. Every single one.
Jurgen Klopp will be really cross with that goal, won't he? Because actually it's fairly basic. Once the free kick has been given, there's at least 2 Liverpool players there who are pointing at the ref. Graham Souness used to say, legendary Liverpool captain, find the dope when the ball is dead. And there were 2 there because they'd stopped playing. That's actually fairly basic.
The person that switches off, yeah?
Yeah, the person who switches off, yeah.
You're saying that, but
Look,
if you look at the team, you look at everybody.
Henderson and Fabinho, 2 of the most experienced.
That's on the ball, but no one in that Liverpool lineup was ready for that free kick to be taken. So even if the front 2 or the closest 2 to the ball, everyone else has to get into position. Fabinho gets stepped by. I mean, it's a great bit of play by De Bruyne, but the whole team would just. It was beginning of the game.
Yeah.
You've got to be ready.
Into it,
Yeah.
Gordon Strachan always used to say the only time you really need to switch on is when the ball's dead.
Yeah.
That's when you have to switch on. When the ball goes dead, free kick, anything else. If the free kick is against you, make sure someone's on the ball so they cannot play it quickly, and then you can, liven up behind.
Great response from Liverpool to make it 1-1 very soon. David, we've eulogised about Jota this season. What an astonishingly effective and brilliant signing he's been for Liverpool.
Absolutely. The interest, I talk about number 9s. I mean, he's not the traditional number 9, but this guy just scores goals. He's not really heavy on the assist list. But we're talking about 1 minute Kevin De Bruyne, but in order for these players to play as well as they do, they need help. First of all, help from Man City defence not clearing it properly, but then the quality of Robbo's ball, the layoff from Trent, and then Jota doing what he does best. The one question I'd have for Ederson is, did he think that Jota was going to smash this? Because in the end, it's not the hardest shot, but it's the most awkward shot because Ederson's half committed to.
So he's committed himself to Jota smashing it. Yeah,
that's what he looked like to me. Because if he knew where the ball, it sounds obvious, but if he knew where the ball was going to be, it wasn't the most difficult.
He sort of jumped high, not high, but he went higher than.
Yes, he definitely didn't he?
He didn't go high.
It's a training session. You turn off the post, the guy shoots, and you end up flinging yourself because you know there's a lot of goal to cover. And then Jota hits it close to him.
I promise you I'm not obsessed with it. But I looked at it several times because I thought, did it get a deflection? Because I was a bit surprised it had beaten him. But you've explained really well why, because he's actually.
He didn't actually catch it right, did he, Jota?
No,
he didn't catch it cleanly.
No.
Which is one of the problems.
You'll see we froze it there because there was a Liverpool player offside in the build-up, and the Manchester City fans thought, he's offside. It's not an offence to be offside in and of itself.
Absolutely right.
If you're not subsequently active in the game.
As I mentioned before, I thought the assistants were brilliant, and it's just holding the flag. I think it was Mane.
Yeah.
And he is, there he is. He's quite clearly in an offside position. But does he get involved in active play? No, he doesn't. Gets himself back on. At no stage does he get involved in anything.
Yeah.
And that is superb assistant refereeing, because you're watching everything that's going on and doesn't put the flag up, and a goal scored and a good goal as well.
Can I ask a question then? If John Stones knows that Mane's offside, he doesn't head the ball. But he heads the ball because he's not sure if Mane's onside or offside. So Mane is influencing the play.
No, because he's not involved in active play. It's only if he prevents him from playing it or he makes an action, he's clearly away. I think what you're saying is absolutely right, because as a defender, sometimes when there's a cross, if you know there's an attacker there, you're duty-bound to clear it. But what we say to players at the start of every season is, go back to when you were this high and play to the whistle.
Yeah. Well, we have this debate quite regularly. We've definitely had some goals this season where, the players have been much closer, i.e. the defender's been much closer to the attacker who's offside, and the defenders had to play it, and it's definitely had a material impact on what's happened. But it would be harsh to say that had an impact on it, wouldn't it?
The only thing I would say is, as having played defence myself, if I know somebody's there, you will attempt to clear it. If I knew that he was offside, I would possibly try and chest it and play.
No one's going to take the risk of that.
No, not at all. So therefore, you have to head it. And there were two. You mentioned that, 2 really bad headers.
Yeah.
Because City panicked because they thought someone was in there. But
it was like the goal we scored with Jesus, wasn't it? Where there was 4 players in an offside position. And as an assistant, you're sort of working with the second rearmost defender. They're in your eye line. Thankless job. I wasn't very good.
Never mind goalkeepers union. Listen, he's well in it, isn't he? He's well in that referee.
He's doing very well. 2 brilliant goalkeepers, both Brazilian goalkeepers, on show. I wonder what was going through David's mind when he saw Ederson doing this.
I was like Ederson. Unlike the other 52,000 people at the stadium and how many billions are watching around the world. Yeah, I mean. The question is, does he know Jota's there? I think he does.
I think he does.
Does he know he's got enough time? I mean, this is a guy who plays, interestingly, he could play up front, but he prefers to play midfield if he was ever going to be. He considered himself better than Kevin De Bruyne.
Yeah.
He also thinks he's the best penalty taker in Man City's squad. But that was just cool.
I love that. Was so good, that moment, wasn't it?
Does he get his foot stuck there, or is that is that a dummy?
No, I think he was going. I actually think he was going for another pass.
Right.
The pass wasn't on. Then he's let it run, and then he sees the line.
It was a sharp intake of bread there, wasn't it?
I think you're right. I think he's playing at a bit more acute angle, isn't it, rather than the end. He has to play along the He's playing it up towards the halfway line.
The ball kind of runs away. The ball kind of runs away from him, doesn't it? And then he just makes his mind up there. It's fair play. Never panicked at all, did he? If any other goalkeeper, I think any other goalkeeper in the league at all, any other goalkeeper would have panicked.
Yes. Yeah.
I think there's one at the other end of the pitch.
Would have been okay.
Would have been okay.
Fair play.
Just before we see Manchester City going 2-1 up, Jim Beglin said something really interesting in commentary, which I think is worth highlighting for everyone around the world, which is why Trent Alexander-Arnold is on the back post in the left-back position when the cross comes in, that Liverpool switch their full-backs for defending corners.
Yeah, whether it's a goalkeeper's shout or it's a coach's shout, but so you're on your correct foot when you're clearing it.
Okay.
So when you played right back, if you go onto the left post when you're defending, then you can clear it with your...
Because the ball will be coming into you that way.
And you'll be clearing it away from harm.
Yeah.
If I'm on the near post and I'm left-footed, I'm going to try and clear into play. So if it's coming in like that, you can clear it where it's come from.
Yeah.
And if it's coming from this side, you can clear it where...
Did you have that? Is that something you did in the teams you played for?
No.
No.
No. Maybe that's why there were so many deflections.
I'd never really thought about it before. I mean, it's logical. That's like
it is. And I would imagine, the great Arsenal defences and the Man United defences, they always swapped as well, the fullbacks. So, makes sense.
Let's have a look at the goal then. So Trent Alexander-Arnold on the left-hand side when it gets recycled. You're going to talk body shape now, aren't you?
Yeah, you can see Trent. Yeah, it's what we call having your shoulders down the pitch. And what I mean by that is Trent's one shoulder's facing his goal, one shoulder's facing up the goal, so he can't see what's behind him. And as soon as the centre forward, we say it many, many times, if the forward-thinking player can see the number of the defender on his shirt, then you are in trouble as a defender, because you don't know where that forward is. And it's a great run from Jesus, and the ball is outstanding as well.
Brilliant.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things there, and you make a great point, because if he's in that position, he sees run, but if you watch him, he actually checks and sees that Jesus is next to him. And he's in this kind of emotion where everyone's pushing out, and then looking down the line, you've got 4 City players, like you said, in offside positions. And it's almost like I'm in the right place here.
Yeah.
And the question would be, is he keeping him on, or is Joel Matip keeping him on, or in the middle? And therefore, if it's Joel Matip, he's actually done his job properly. Joel Matip hasn't got out far enough. But
some finishing.
Brilliant finish. And as you say, great of the assistant to keep his eye on the player who is active, who is Jesus.
I don't know how they do it.
Not the 4 in the middle. That's where VAR's really good, isn't it? Because actually,
that's it. Because
you're
focusing on that secondary most defender, and in your eye line, you've got 4 Man City players who are in an offside position who don't get involved in active play. Keeps the flag down. As Dion said, it's a great goal. It's great football all round. Great appreciation.
The finish as well from Jesus, because he cannot actually strike the ball. No. He has to just let the ball sort of hit him. And you've got a keeper coming out who's 6'4", 6'5".
He's got to caress it into the net,
so he's got to just put enough on it. And he just put enough on it because it just went under the bar. So it's a really difficult finish.
How do you not kick the ball?
Well, what I mean by that is he didn't... The ball's coming at such a pace where he can just sort of just dab it. He doesn't kick it. He doesn't go through with it. Because if he does, then it's going to go up and over the bar. Yeah. It's just a very, very...
It sort of stuns it almost, doesn't it?
Yeah, he does. Let's hit his foot.
And then VAR obviously will check Jesus, and obviously check that there's no little flick from any of the 4 retreating Man City players, which would have definitely been offside.
Absolutely, yeah. And we know when a goal's scored, VAR checks it, and the lines are on there. He's clearly onside.
It was easy when you refereed. When you refereed, put the flag up offside.
Absolutely.
What do you think, Jurgen? They were hanging on a bit, Liverpool, at half-time. They really were. What do you think Klopp's instructions, obviously they were effective, what do you think he would have impressed upon his team they needed to do better in the second half?
Well, I felt the midfield, I mean, again, it's wonderful when you talk to someone else who's watched exactly the same game and they've got a different view on things. I thought Liverpool struggled in midfield because that ball over the top that Cancelo played, granted it was from a set play, but they were getting that opportunity too often in the game. So there would have been an instruction to be better in midfield. But then 47 seconds into that second half, you end up in a situation which I don't think you would have planned for. So whatever Jurgen Klopp said, he never said, Mo, when you get in the place, put it down the middle for Mane. It was just a case that he read that situation. But I think Manchester City's midfield was better. And you talk about Kevin De Bruyne being excellent. In the middle there with Rodrigo, he was superb. The amount of times he won balls and gave it to Kevin to go and do what he said. The amount of times that Phil Foden, when he was central, more importantly, was influential in that game. And I think this again, I'm so buzzing off it. When you see such quality, it's because everybody contributes, not just one player does a fantastic show. So Jurgen would have said, control the midfield a bit better, give yourselves an opportunity.
Rodri's got so much better, hasn't he? So much better. Yeah. You know, he came in, he was a little bit, I'm not quite sure what to do. This very, very fast, and now he's just controlling it. You know, again, he's a unit of a man, and he just seems to pass it really simply and breaks things up. Doesn't try to do any skills or anything fancy. Like you say, he gets it and he gives it to somebody else that can do that part of the job. Brilliant.
But before most people even sat down for the start of the second half, Liverpool had equalised in the manner that David described. It's beautifully taken. From a defensive point of view, Dion, has Kyle Walker just switched off momentarily, which is all it takes?
Yeah, I think he knows he's there, but he knows he's there too late.
Yeah.
Again, you can see his number. It's a great run by Jesus. It's not even a great run by Mane, because all he's going to do is just put him in. Nice way to pass and a very emphatic finish. That's when you can put your foot through it. Really difficult for the keeper. The keeper has no idea where he's going to go. He can go where he wants.
That weight of that pass is perfect, isn't it?
And what he's done, it might sound silly, but he's actually played that ball with just enough weight so he can finish with his right foot.
Yes.
You know, and he doesn't have to take a
finish first time right foot.
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, and again, this is a wonderful thing. This is, 47 seconds into the second half. So again, how do you come out for that second half? Are you on it? But also knowing your players. And if you're Kyle Walker, you're going, oh, that's Mo Salah. He's going to pick the ball up and run at the defender. The last thing he's probably thinking of is that he's going to play someone else in, even though Mo Salah now has 11 assists. It's kind of usually from a different position. So the brilliance of Mo Salah to pick it out.
For the next 15 minutes, Liverpool actually were on top, and you thought for a second Liverpool going to steal the game, but then City thought they'd made it 3-2. I think all of us watching on TV, if you were there, probably thought it was 3-2 as well, but VAR said it was just offside. We're going to have our debate now, aren't we, Dion, with Chris, about whether VAR was brought in to disallow goals like this. I'm not disputing the maths, because I don't do maths very well, Chris, or angles.
Chris,
what do you say?
I thought that this kind of call was going to be given to the attacker or the positive side of this move. And now we are sort of splitting hairs again, I suppose, to a certain degree.
It's offside, isn't it?
Okay.
It is. It is. I mean, he's leaning, and of course, now we know, Dean, we talk about a lot of the time, your shoulder. You score with your shoulder, can't you? And he's leaning. I look at that, and to be honest with you, when I see that, I don't have a problem with that. I don't think that is as tight as you think. I think that's...
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm comfortable with that. And it's the technology, isn't it? You know, we've got thicker lines this year and what have you, and it's checked.
I've got to ask a question about thicker lines. Because if you've got a thick line and a thick line, there's still a point where they cross over, which is always going to be the same, on the edge, so the line doesn't... Yeah,
but obviously in this situation they didn't, so it's off. I look at that and just go, that's offside. I don't have a problem with that. I don't think it's as tight as people think. I'm comfortable.
OK.
Chris is sorry. I'm comfortable.
Chris is comfortable.
I think it's more that it's a massive game. I know this is not right. It's a massive game. Everyone celebrates, then suddenly the goal's disallowed. I don't want to get to a stage where people go, "Oh, am I going to celebrate that because it might have been offside?" You know, that might be the goal that wins the league.
I think we're there, though.
I think we are there.
I thought when Mark said the turning moment was when Trent Alexander tried to shoot from 65 yards.
Yeah.
Centre of the circle.
Yeah, exactly. If anybody had the ability from that range, he did, actually, didn't he? He really did. And then City, it got the feeling that Liverpool were really pressing for a winner, maybe because they felt they needed to win the game because of the fixtures coming up. There was always a danger City might get them on the break, and City did get them on the break. Now, we know what happens in the end. Is Mahrez's touch not quite what it needs to be?
It's not what he would have wanted it to be.
No.
Because, again, I think it's the wrong choice of finish, but it's the wrong choice of finish because his first touch forces him to finish like that.
Did you think first touch hit it with it on his left-footed? Were you thinking first touch take it down the right and hit it with his right?
Correct.
Yes.
But he wouldn't have wanted that.
No.
He wouldn't. That would have been the correct way to finish. Then you'd have more goals to shoot at and less defenders less obstacles, I would imagine, to go into. But he's left-footed. He wanted to go into the centre of the goal, didn't he? And that's...
You know what I was thinking when he did that? Philippe Albert.
Oh, a little dink.
Against Man United. I was immediately thinking he's on his left. You could see, I mean, and he's so far off his line, Alisson, isn't he? You're thinking, oh, he's going to chip him here.
Well, that was one thing that I thought straight after the game was Alisson's position, why he was in it. But if you actually look at the build-up, he was trying to track back and then has to track forward. But interestingly, I'm not sure I'd want to be in Mahrez's place at the moment because he's probably thinking, could have shot then, could have done this, could have done that. There's so many different things.
It takes a nick.
And it takes a nick. And does that nick... Is
take
that
it over.
It
might have scored. He might have gone in without the nick.
And essentially you're saying, well, actually, I've done everything right, but the nick took it over.
Yeah.
Oh.
Who are your favourites for the title?
City.
Carry on. I can't be drawn on it. It has to be City because they're top, without a doubt. Yeah, has to be.
Mrs. Foy said Liverpool.
Oh, yeah, yes.
Oh, can't blame Bev, man. That's scandalous.
I think Mrs. D said Liverpool probably as well, yeah.
Yes. My missus ain't watching, so I'm all right.
OK.